Good morning from New Orleans. I'm here with Gabby. Got in late last night, and today we're actually headed on a road trip. So we're walking out to our car. We're gonna drive to Montgomery, Alabama. Excited to show you guys the reason we came here. We came here because tomorrow is Juneteenth, which is a very special holiday, and I want to show you a really cool place in Montgomery, Alabama. Here I am in front of the Legacy Museum. I wish I could show you all what it looks like inside, take pictures and take videos, but you'll have to just come see it for yourself. I do want to tell you a little bit about what this museum is about and why it's so important, and I'm also going to show you some other places in Montgomery that the museum tells you a little bit better this story, but I'll try to remember. I took notes for everyone to remind you some of these really important things. I've never been to a museum like this before, and I think this is the only one like it in America. It's a museum that tells the story of Black people's experiences in America, which honestly has been really, really sad, really hard to listen to, hard to hear about, and awful. And some of us don't have to think about that very often, but we really should, because some people have to think about it every day, all the time, every day. They get treated differently because of the color of their skin. Now, it's kind of hard to understand why that happens, but I'm going to try to explain a little bit more of it using, again, the notes I took in the museum. It's called the Legacy Museum because it tells the story, or the legacy, of slavery, and there's pictures up there of slavery, from slavery to mass incarceration, which is another way to say a lot of people being locked away in prisons and in jails. So this story starts in the 18th century when 12 million people were kidnapped from Africa, taken from their homes, put on ships, and sold around the world. Now in 1808, slavery was abolished internationally, but domestic slave trade continued in the US. So people kept selling other human beings into different farms and places where they need people to work, but instead of hiring them, they just took them, kidnapped them, sold them, and made them work for free. They didn't give them anything for all the work that they were doing. And not only that, they made them live in such hard conditions, really awful conditions, and separated them from their families. So sometimes the mom and the kids would be in one place, but they would sell the dad to a different person. So he had to live in a totally different place, and they had no way to talk to him. Sometimes they would even take the son or the daughter from the mom and sell them to another place. Now in 1863, there was a new rule that said that in America, you're not allowed to own slaves. Nobody is allowed to be a slave. They have to be hired and compensated for their work unless they are a criminal, unless they've been guilty of a crime. So what happened next? People started arresting Black people so that they could use them as slaves. So a lot of people that used to be slaves in America and were now supposed to be free were arrested, sometimes for absolutely no reason, sometimes for really silly reasons that they really shouldn't have been arrested for. And then they were taken to go do free work, to build roads, to dig mines, to look for oil and gold and all these other things. And again, they were not paid. So slavery was really continuing. In fact, in 1971, there were 300,000 people in prisons in the United States. Today, 3.2 million people. So that number just keeps increasing and increasing. And so many of them are Black and brown people. Anyways, we've been through a lot in this video. I'm going to explain some more stories of how this happened, how people were able to end slavery and end some of this oppression and this injustice, and also what's still happening and what's being done to fight it, to stop the wrong things from happening. But again, I'll tell you more about those things as we go see some other sites in Montgomery, so I can show you where a lot of these stories actually took place and happened. Okay, this is a beautiful quote from Maya Angelou. History, despite its retching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Here's a cool story that happened in this city. In 1955, Rosa Parks was riding the bus. Now, the way the rules used to work in Montgomery and in everywhere in America is that black people had to ride in the back of the bus, white people rode in the front of the bus, and then if a white person got on the bus, the black people had to get up and move so the white person could sit down. They had to stand up, basically. That was the rule. But it's a really, really bad rule to make certain people stand up and other people get seats. Anyways, Rosa Parks was sitting down, and then this white person got on the bus. And so the bus driver said, excuse me, ma'am, you'll have to get up. And she was like, what? Why? And then a police officer came on and said, are you not saying that you won't get out of your seat? And she was like, I don't think you guys should get to push us around and tell us what to do just because we're black. And he said, if you will not stand up right now, we're going to arrest you. And so they arrested her. And then they started this whole campaign actually where they boycotted the buses. So all the black people in Montgomery, Alabama decided, you know what, you're right. This is wrong. This is not fair to make us sit in the back and make us get up whenever white people come. Like, we should be treated just like anyone else. So they stopped riding the buses. They decided to have a strike where for one day, no one was going to ride the buses because it was unfair the way that the people who worked on the buses were treating black people. So the next day, nobody rode the bus. The buses were empty. And then the people who owned the buses and the city officials started getting really upset. And they're like, oh no, no one's riding our buses. And so then they had a big meeting that night in a church. And they were like, should we keep doing this? Should we keep not riding the buses until they decide to integrate the buses to allow us to sit wherever? And they're like, yeah, let's keep doing it. So they kept going for 380 days until finally the city decided that yes, anyone can sit anywhere they want on the buses. You know how I told you that they decided to organize a bus boycott and they all met in this one big church? This was the church. And the person who helped them organize the bus boycott, who was the pastor of this church, or became the pastor of this church, was Martin Luther King Jr. All right, we're outside the Legacy Museum. Right now we're just at the waterfront in Montgomery, Alabama. There's a timeline here of the history of this city. No mention of slavery. In fact, here it says it was an important regional hub for the shipping, trading, and storing of cotton and many other important commodities. So that's how this history is being told out here. Just to say that whenever we tell history, whenever we tell a story, there are certain things we're choosing to tell and certain things we're choosing to leave out. And this is why a lot of you might not know about some of the things that I'm telling you about today, because this is the version of history that's often taught in schools or just being told in public places like this one. And that's really wrong, because remember, people lived through this. A lot of people died because of different things that we're talking about in our video. And so the least we could do is remember that it happened. Today we're at the memorial, and so I'll show you some places. I'm allowed to take pictures and videos here. It's really raining, so I got my poncho on. But yeah, I get to show you guys a little bit around this big memorial behind me. The word lynching refers to a really sad and scary thing. So black people were targeted because white people didn't like them as much and didn't think they were as much of human beings. And so they would sometimes lynch them, which means hurting them, sometimes killing them, often killing them in front of other people. People would watch it like it was something to do for fun. Now, behind me are some memorials. I'm going to show you 800 memorials of 800 people that died because the white people just didn't like them as much. So as you can see, it has the name of the city or the town, and then it has names of people who died in that place. They were lynched because of the color of their skin, not because they did anything wrong. And it's important to remember every life that was lost, everyone that died. That's why they have this memorial, so we can walk through and read their names and think of them and maybe say a prayer for their family. And just remember that they were so important. Their lives were very valuable, and their lives were taken away from them. Okay, now I want to read you all some stories, names of people, and why they were lynched, or why people said that they had to lynch them or had to kill them. In Alabama in 1888, they thought that white people had to have their own well to drink from and black people had to drink from a different well. So 7 black people who drank from a white man's well were killed. Arthur St. Clair was a minister or a pastor in Florida, and in 1877, he performed a wedding. So he helped a black man and a white woman get married, and then he was lynched and killed. And behind me, these are all stories like that one. Stories of people who were lynched for no good reason. And there's more along this wall too. And again, the memorials up behind me of other people who were killed. And maybe we don't know their exact story, we don't know why it happened, but we do know that it's wrong. Now this one behind me is really sad. In Alabama, there was a man that was killed in 1896 because he bought something with money, he paid with real money, and then the merchant, the guy who sold him the thing, thought that the money was fake, so they killed him. Now the reason why this one's so sad for me is because last year, a man named George Floyd was killed for exactly the same reason. He went and bought something from the store, he paid with real money, and then the guy who owned the store thought that it was fake money, so he called the police. The police came and they killed him. Just last year, they killed George Floyd for no reason, just because they thought his money was fake. Hi, now I'm in the Peace and Justice Garden, but I just wanted to take a minute again to talk about how these things are so sad that we're hearing about, but why it is important that we have this memorial behind us that remembers the people who died. And a lot of these people, they died a long time ago, but nothing was done to remember their lives and how important they were. But the people that were killed in these lynchings, they're our heroes. Not just heroes for the people and their family, but also heroes for all of us. Because I am very hopeful that there will be a better tomorrow, a day where people are all treated the same. But for now, that's not the case. For now, we still have to keep doing the right thing, treating everyone the same, but we have to also fight a little bit because the rules are just not fair. The rules still don't treat everyone the same. For the hanged and beaten, for the shot, drowned and burned, for the tortured, tormented and terrorized, for those abandoned by the rule of law, we will remember. With hope, because hopelessness is the enemy of justice. With courage, because peace requires bravery. With persistence, because justice is a constant struggle. With faith, because we shall overcome.